All right, thanks so much for joining us here on this Wednesday for National Report. I'm Sean Kreisman.
And I'm Emma Reckenberg. We do begin with the tragic news out of Texas. Parents waking up, hugging their kids a little tighter this morning as they send them off to school in the wake of another tragic shooting, this time in Uvalde, Texas.
You're seeing some of that footage there. What we know now, 19 children, 2 adults killed. This was at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, west of San Antonio. That was before the gunman turned his gun on 21 innocent souls. Rather, the 18-year-old suspect shot his grandmother as well. That was reported. This was a separate scene. Again, 19 children killed, 2 adults killed at that scene there at the elementary school. Also reporting of the gunman shooting his grandmother. She is in critical condition. We continue to follow that. But also this, many lawmakers speaking out on it, including President Biden.
I'd hoped when I became president, I would not have to do this again. Another massacre, Uvalde, Texas, an elementary school. Beautiful, innocent, second, third, fourth graders.
This morning, we're beginning to learn the names and faces of some of the victims of the nation's second deadliest elementary school shooting. 19 young children, 2 teachers, Ava Morales, Irma Garcia. We're thinking about them and their families this morning. Our Newsmax border correspondent Jason Jones joining us now live from Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, with the latest on this developing story. Jason?
Well, good morning. Unfortunately, here we are, another mass shooting. 18-year-old young man, unfortunately, yesterday at 11:30 in the morning, law enforcement revealing to us this morning that it was involved in an accident near the school, then fled that scene, ran to the school wearing body armor and armed with one long rifle. What has gone out is that there's been a pistol involved. That's not true, we're learning now. Ran toward the school as local and state law enforcement were also notified by the local community who had witnessed the crash and then watched as a gunman emerged from that vehicle running toward the school. As he made entrance into the school, law enforcement was engaging him, and he was shooting back at them, we're being told. Now, once inside, he was able to barricade himself in one of these classrooms where most of the victims were located later. And at that point, it was a very active scene, we're being told, as law enforcement were engaging the suspect. At the same time, conducting break and rakes of windows, trying to get children out of surrounding classrooms as gunfire was taking place. So this was a very active scene. Now, it's been reported that the individual was armed with body armor. That's not the case. He had what's known as a plate carrier, but he had no body armor on him. As he was inside the room, they were able to finally conduct what they call a forced entry, engaging the suspect. One federal officer who was shot and then shooting and killing the suspect. Now, here's the background on what we know about him at this point. He's got no criminal history. He's got no gang affiliation, and he's not been in contact with local law enforcement here at this preliminary stage of the investigation. What I can tell you from talking to law enforcement is that they got 2 command posts here, one for Texas Rangers, local and federal law enforcement, as they're working everything backward, trying to understand what happened in the timeline of the last 120 hours of this individual, and what were the tripwires, what really made him do what he's doing in these overt acts to try to understand what unfolded with this massacre here in Uvalde, Texas.
It's early in the investigation, Jason, and it's just unimaginable the reason, the motive as to why someone would do such a tragic act. What are the resources that are there on scene right now for families who are grieving and trying to learn more?
Well, you got to remember, there are multiple scenes. You've got the school here behind me, Robb Elementary. You've got the hospital where you've got triage of family and victims there. Then you've also got the original crime scene where he engaged one of his family members that started this whole event before the crash. So you got to remember, you've got multiple scenes, multiple locations. But I can tell you, being here on the ground, you're seeing resources coming in from all over the state. When you think of Uvalde, Texas, you got to remember, this is a small community, about 16,000 in population. And it's very remote. You're about 80 miles from the border and about 80 miles from San Antonio, Texas. So many of the Texas Rangers that are coming in, local and state law enforcement, are having to surge in with resources to support this sheer size of this investigation. I can tell you also, knowing historically how these work out, DPS headquarters, intel and counterterrorism, local, state, and federal law enforcement working in a collaborative environment are going to really be working the digital footprint here. What was the digital leakage that showed that he may have been forecasting events and trying to really work that investigation backward, because the timeline of events are going to be extremely important in understanding for the investigators exactly what took place here.
The investigation just getting underway as parents begin their grieving process. Jason Jones, live with the very latest in Uvalde. Jason, thank you.
All right, our next guest now is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton joining us live here. AG, thanks so much for coming on the program. A very difficult day, a very difficult time, not just for that community there in Uvalde, the state of Texas, and also the nation as well. We'll talk about the primary win for you in just a bit. Kind of a surreal moment here, even just for you. In one moment, in one breath, there is a celebration for you to move forward in the primary. The other here, dealing with the deadliest mass shooting in a school since 2012 at Sandy Hook. I just want to start with the families and friends in that community and your thoughts at this moment for Uvalde.
Yeah, I mean, as a father of four, you hear a story like this and you just can't help but think about your own children, how it would make you feel if you were in this situation. And obviously our hearts go out to these people and our prayers go with them. I'm on my way down there this morning. I already have a team down there. We deal with the victims of crime. We try to get there as quickly as we can to help them in whatever way we can, whether that's psychologically, whether that's emotionally, whether that's with medical issues. We're going to be there to try to help these people and give them the support that they need.
As far as the investigation goes, again, 19 children killed, 2 adults as well. Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Sadly, days away from the last day of school for these young children. They have since ended school at this time that we know. The gunman is dead. The suspect is dead, according to authorities. How does that play in the investigation? There's also a report that Texas Rangers have taken over this investigation. Is that correct? And then how do you and your office assist in that? What is next in the investigation, sir?
So typically, we only assist if we're asked to assist. Our focus right now is really on the victims of the crime. DPS, it does not surprise me that they've been asked to assist or even to lead the investigation, since it is in Texas. But the gunman is deceased, and so it's going to be difficult to necessarily understand exactly why this happened. I do think we need to focus on what we can do to prevent this. We've already had too many of these, and there are resources, I think, available right now that could have made a difference in this particular situation.
Many politicians, look, as you know, step up and offer their own thoughts as far as solutions go. Oftentimes, you forget about the families and the friends, so as far as politicians go, that are grieving right now, and they run straight to gun legislation, right, and gun laws and more legislation. I want to play this. President Biden addressed the nation last night. I'll play you some of what he said. Here's that.
When, in God's name, are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? It's time to turn this pain into action. For every parent, for every citizen of this country, we have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act.
So again, the president talking about gun lobbies. I want to point out President Obama released a statement. He blamed a political party, did not name by name, obviously, but a political party, but also gun lobby as well. Is it gun laws that are the problem, or are there other options that perhaps maybe there are things that you could put in the school to keep these school children protected? Your thoughts?
Look, we already have laws against killing people, and this guy apparently didn't care what the law was. Having a gun law that told him not to have a gun, I don't think would have stopped any of this. So I think that's not the right focus. They obviously have a political agenda of limiting guns in the hands of everybody, which makes no sense. What I would say is the state of Texas has guardian laws. They have martial laws, which empower school districts to make choices about whether they want to train people in their own schools to be ready, because clearly law enforcement can't be everywhere. And there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with starting to think about putting trained police officers maybe just a few in every school, but that's going to be a higher cost than actually training some of the people already at the school. So we have laws in place that if school districts would take advantage of them, I think could make a major difference.
And I want to ask you about that too, and I'll close on the primary, but I want to ask you about that too. 2018, Parkland, Florida, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, you may remember 17 dead there. It was immediately reacted there in that state where they spent, I believe, $20 million to get officers there in each and every school. Armed officers there. Is that, have you spoken, is that something that maybe you're considering, speaking to the AG in Florida, or perhaps others there in Florida, how they handled the Parkland shooting? Maybe there's something in Texas that they could follow that as well?
Yeah, oddly enough, I have followed up with both the current Attorney General tried to call me yesterday from Florida, and I also had a text from Pam Bondi, who was the previous Attorney General, talking about the situation that they dealt with at Parkland. And so I'm definitely going to be relying on their experience, given that they've gone through this as well.
Yeah, we continue to follow that again as those names are being released and really the description of the children. It's a difficult time. That will be a focus throughout this show. Real quick before I close out with you, let you go, AG. On a different note, in politics, you pulled out a primary win, looking for a third term as Attorney General there. Defeating George P. Bush. What are you hoping to get done this time around?
Well, look, we have our battles with the Biden administration. We're in, I think, we've sued them 28 times. They've sued us 6 or 7 times. We're in 34 lawsuits with them right now. So we're in a battle for, I believe, our freedom, for whether this Constitution is going to stand. That includes the First Amendment, includes the Second Amendment that we're dealing with today. And Texas is going to have to lead that fight. And so I think the voters have given me that opportunity, knowing that I have the experience, that we've been successful in fighting them. And but for the actions of Texas, I think we are significant in helping the entire country fight this fight.
I also want to mention really quickly before you go, have you spoken to Governor Abbott? I know he has a press conference scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon in regards to that mass shooting there in Uvalde. Have you spoken with Governor Abbott, sir?
No, actually, I'm not planning on doing that this morning. We were dealing with our own issues related to the crime victims. That was our first focus. Yeah. And I'm actually headed out there in just a few hours. And we obviously also were dealing with the election last night. So we had a lot going on.
Hands full, absolutely. Look, we appreciate your time coming on the program. I know our viewers do as well. That is Ken Paxton, Attorney General in the state of Texas, just pulled out his primary win there. Ken, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.